They thought the office gossip was wild, but after Minjun's shocking confession, everything changed. From secret stares in business meetings to jealous laughs over lunch, and even his father teasing them like school kids, love is no longer hiding. But will Nia's answer finally seal their fate, or will more drama stand in their way? You asked for part 2. Trust me to bring them for you. Sit back, relax, and let enjoy their love story. The next morning, the office was on fire with whispers. Everyone had heard it. CEO Minjun finally confessing his feelings for Nia. It was all anyone could talk about. By the time Nia entered the building, the stares were impossible to miss. Some employees smiled knowingly, while others looked at her with curiosity and envy. The teasing started almost immediately. I knew it, one secretary whispered loudly to another. The way he reacted whenever men tried to talk to her? That was not just business. Another laughed. Please, can they just announce the wedding already? They look like they were made for each other. Nia pretended not to hear, but her cheeks betrayed her, warming against her will. She tried to keep her usual confident stride, yet every step felt heavier under their watchful eyes. When she entered Minjun's office, he was already at his desk, expression calm as always. But she noticed the faintest twitch in his jaw when she said, Your staff already thinks we're planning a wedding. For the first time, Minjun looked startled, then quickly masked it with a dry cough. People like to talk, he muttered. But when he glanced at her, his ears turned slightly red. Nia leaned on his desk, teasing. Well, you also usually act like a man who couldn't stand another guy looking at me. His eyes flickered, sharp yet vulnerable, before he turned away to shuffle some papers. That's because I can't. His voice was quiet, but the weight of his words filled the room. Nia's heart skipped, but before she could reply, another knock came at the door. Mr. Han, the ever-nosy assistant manager, grinning wide. Boss, the office is waiting for the wedding invitation, he teased. Minjun's cold glare shut him up instantly, but the damage was done. Nia bit her lip, trying not to laugh, while Minjun looked like he might explode. As the day went on, they went for a meeting, and the boardroom was filled with polished tables, foreign investors, and the soft hum of translation devices. Nia adjusted her notes and sat beside Minjun, her pen tapping lightly. As usual, her role was clear. Translate his words, bridge the gap, and keep the meeting smooth. But today felt different. Every time she glanced at him, she remembered the bold words from his father's birthday party. I like you. Her chest warmed. She tried to stay professional, but a small smile tugged at her lips. Minjun, on the other hand, was fighting his own battle. Normally, he was cold, commanding, and sharp during business meetings. But now, whenever Nia's eyes met while she translated, his ears burned. One investor, an older gentleman from the U.S., noticed. After Minjun finished a statement, Nia translated with her usual charm. The investor chuckled, glancing between the two. You two work very well together, he said with a knowing smile. Nia blinked, clearing her throat quickly, while Minjun coughed into his fist. Business comes first, Minjun replied stiffly, though the redness in his cheeks betrayed him. The meeting continued, but the tension only grew. Nia's voice was calm and clear, yet her heart raced each time Minjun's gaze lingered on her a second too long. She caught herself biting her lip to hide a smile. When the meeting ended, the investors left satisfied, promising to return. The air between them still buzzed with unspoken tension. Minjun adjusted his tie, pretending to be casual. You've worked hard today. Let's go for lunch together. Nia blinked, surprised. Normally, he would disappear back into his office with a cold expression. Lunch? With me, she teased, raising an eyebrow. Yes, he said a little too firmly. Then softer, unless you're busy. Minutes later, they sat in a quiet restaurant not far from the office. The atmosphere was lighter than the boardroom. For once, Minjun didn't look like the intimidating CEO. He was more like a man trying to figure out how to smile without looking awkward. Nia noticed immediately. She leaned forward, whispering with a grin, "Are you blushing again?" "I am not," he said quickly, reaching for his water glass. But his ears betrayed him, turning red. She laughed so loudly the couple at the next table turned to stare. "You really are different outside the office. Almost cute." Minjun set his glass down, narrowing his eyes. "Almost." "Yes, almost," she said, drawing out the word, clearly enjoying herself. He sighed, but there was a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "You're impossible. And yet you asked me to lunch," she replied cheekily, poking her chopsticks at him as if she'd won a game. For the first time, Minjun leaned back, letting out a genuine laugh, a sound so rare that Nia froze, staring at him. It wasn't the cold CEO everyone knew. It was Minjun, the man. Her heart skipped before she quickly covered it with a playful smirk. "Careful, CEO. If you keep laughing like that, I might start liking you more." He leaned closer, voice low but teasing. "Maybe that's what I want." When Nia and Minjun returned from lunch, the atmosphere in the office shifted instantly. The sound of footsteps and hushed voices followed them down the hallway. Some staff exchanged amused looks. "See? They came back together," one whispered. Another chuckled. "I told you they're already like a couple." But not everyone was smiling. A few employees frowned, their whispers sharp. "It's not professional. She's just a translator, and now she's eating with the CEO like she owns the place." "Exactly. Some of us work here for years, and he never even notices us." Nia felt the sting of their words, though she kept her head high. She was used to gossip, but hearing jealousy in their tone made her chest tighten. Inside his office, Minjun noticed her silence. "What's wrong?" he asked, sitting behind his desk. "Your people don't seem very happy," Nia replied lightly, though her smile was forced. "Some think I'm stealing attention that doesn't belong to me." His expression darkened. "They don't decide who I spend time with." His voice was calm, but the steel underneath made her glance at him in surprise. Then, trying to lighten the mood, she teased, "You know, you really act like a jealous boyfriend and a protective husband. What's next, CEO? Should I start wearing a ring?" For a moment, Minjun froze, his eyes locking onto hers. The room grew still, his silence heavier than words. Nia's smirk faltered. She hadn't expected him to look at her that way, like he was actually considering it. The whispers grew louder each time they stepped out together. Some staff giggled behind their hands. "Did you see how the CEO looks at her? Like she's already his wife." Others, less amused, frowned and muttered about professionalism and favoritism. At first, she lowered her eyes, embarrassed, but he noticed. With a bold smile, he leaned closer and whispered, "Let them talk, Nia. I don't care. I confess my feelings, and I'm not ashamed." The elevator doors opened, and a group of employees froze mid-whisper. Instead of ignoring them, the CEO looked straight at them and said with a playful smirk, "If you're going to gossip, at least make it creative. The way you tell it makes me sound boring." Laughter rippled through the hall. Some of the staff blushed, embarrassed. Nia covered her mouth to hide her chuckle, but he caught her eyes, and she burst out laughing too. Walking ahead, he added with mock seriousness, "Besides, if anyone has a problem with me taking my translator to lunch, they can apply to be my translator too." That single line silenced the jealous whispers, while the playful ones only laughed harder. And in that moment, Nia realized he wasn't just protecting her from the rumors. He was choosing her, openly and without fear. After a long day, they finally have time for themselves. The city lights sparkled against the glass walls of the rooftop restaurant, casting a soft glow over the table where Minjun and Nia sat. For the first time, there was no interpreter headset, no business files. Just two people enjoying each other's company. Minjun, usually stiff and calculating, looked almost boyish as he tried to pour her a glass of wine. "You're shaking," Nia teased with a grin, her eyes dancing. Are you nervous, boss? Or is it me? Minjun nearly choked on his drink, his ears turning red. I'm not nervous, he said quickly, straightening his tie. I just don't usually do this. What? Eat dinner? She teased again, leaning closer, her voice playful. Or go on dates? He coughed again, his face betraying him. Nia burst into laughter, so loud other diners turned to look. She clutched her stomach, shaking her head. Oh my God, you're terrible at hiding things. Minjun tried to glare at her, but even he couldn't keep a straight face. The sound of her laughter softened him in ways he didn't expect, and when she reached across the table to wipe the corner of his mouth with a napkin, his chest tightened. See, she said softly, her teasing tone gentling for a moment, you're more fun when you relax. Maybe I should train you. He smirked, leaning closer now, his voice low and mischievous. Be careful, Nia. If you train me too well, I might never let you go. Her laughter stilled, just for a heartbeat, and in that silence their connection deepened. Nia leaned back in her chair, giving him a cheeky grin. Never let me go? That sounds like something from a cheesy K-drama. Minjun raised a brow, smirking. And what if I meant it seriously? She blinked, caught off guard, then quickly covered it with another tease. Well, if you meant it seriously, I'd have to charge you extra. Dating your boss should come with hazard pay. He burst out laughing, the sound rich and unrestrained, surprising even himself. Hazard pay? You make it sound like being with me is dangerous. It is, she said, leaning forward, her eyes playful but warm. You're powerful, intimidating, and you have that cold stare that could freeze someone's soul. I'm just an interpreter. What chance do I have? Minjun's laughter softened into something deeper, his gaze lingering on her. You have more power than you think, Nia. You've made me laugh more tonight than I have in years. Her teasing smile faltered for a second, replaced by something gentler. Don't tell me you've been walking around all this time without laughing? No wonder you look like you're always constipated. He gasped in mock offense, pointing his chopsticks at her. Constipated? Do you know I could fire you right now for that? You wouldn't dare, she said, stifling a giggle. Because if you do, who else will make your boring life this exciting? For a moment, their laughter mingled with the soft music of the restaurant. But underneath the teasing, both of them felt it, the unspoken truth that this was no longer just dinner between a CEO and his interpreter. This was the beginning of something neither of them wanted to escape. The next day, the boardroom was filled with Seoul's top investors and executives, the kind of people who didn't smile unless the money was right. Minjun sat at the head of the table, his usual calm mask firmly in place. Beside him, Nia translated smoothly, her voice confident yet charming, catching the attention of everyone in the room. But it wasn't just her translation that drew eyes. It was the way she carried herself. Confident, warm, natural. Halfway through the discussion, one of the senior executives leaned forward, smiling too much. Miss Nia, your Korean is excellent. You must give me your number. Maybe we can have dinner. Strictly professional, of course. The room went quiet for a moment. Minjun's pen froze in his hand. His jaw tightened, but he forced a polite smile. Nia blinked, caught off guard. She gave a small laugh, trying to keep it professional. I'm sorry, but I don't share personal details during work. The man chuckled, clearly not taking the hint. Come on, just a coffee then. I insist. Someone as smart and beautiful as you shouldn't waste her time only translating. Nia shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Minjun. That was when she saw him, his eyes cold as ice, staring at the executive like daggers. Let's stay focused on the deal, Minjun said flatly, his voice calm but carrying a dangerous edge. The whole room felt the tension. For the rest of the meeting, Minjun barely took his eyes off Nia, as if daring anyone else to try. But inside his heart was burning. He had confessed once already, but now, seeing other men notice her. He realized just how much he couldn't stand the thought of losing her. And Nia, she noticed every bit of his jealousy. As soon as the meeting ended, Minjun walked out first, his step sharp, his jaw still clenched. Nia hurried after him, her heels clicking against the marble floor. "Yeah," she called softly, catching up to him. "Why are you walking like you want to kill someone?" He stopped, turned to her, and crossed his arms. "Because someone thought he could ask my girlfriend for her number right in front of me." His voice was low, but the annoyance was clear. Nia tilted her head, fighting a laugh. Girlfriend. I like that." Minjun's ears turned red. "You know what I mean." She grinned, stepping closer. "Minjun, you have to trust me. I'm not going to run off with some old executive. Do you really think anyone can steal me away from you?" His lips pressed together, but his silence betrayed his worry. Nia poked his chest playfully. "Ego, look at you, acting like a jealous boyfriend. Don't you know? I love you, you silly CEO. That means no man can steal me away, not even if he owns all the buildings in Seoul." Minjun blinked, startled. "You love me that much?" She smirked, pretending to think. "Well, maybe, but only when you're not acting like a grumpy ajusi." He couldn't help it. A smile broke across his face, his serious mask finally cracking. "You're impossible." "Impossible, but yours," she teased, winking. For the first time all day, the weight on Minjun's chest lifted, replaced by something warmer, stronger. After days of busy schedules and silent stares filled with unspoken words, Minjun finally sent her a message. "Tonight, no excuses. I'm picking you up." Nia rolled her eyes when she read it, but her heart beat faster. She knew it wasn't a business dinner this time. It was different. That night, a black car pulled up outside her apartment. When Nia stepped out of her apartment, Minjun almost forgot how to breathe. She wore a simple dress, nothing too flashy, but somehow it made her glow. He quickly straightened his tie to hide his nerves. Sliding into the car, she caught him staring. "Yeah, stop looking at me like that. You'll burn a hole through my face." Minjun smirked, leaning back casually. "I'm just surprised. My translator turned out to be this beautiful? No wonder you stole my heart so easily." Her eyes widened, and to his delight her cheeks turned red. "Why, don't joke like that," she stammered, looking away. He chuckled, enjoying every second. "Who said I'm joking?" By the time they arrived at the rooftop restaurant, Nia was still flustered. The view of Seoul glittered beneath the night sky, fairy lights hanging above them. She tried to recover her playful tone. "So, Seonim, do you always take your employees to places like this?" Minjun leaned closer, his smile mischievous. "No, only the one who makes me forget my English, my meetings, and my sanity." Nia nearly choked on her drink. "Minjun!" Her loud reaction made him laugh. Really laugh, the kind of sound that made her heart squeeze. He was supposed to be the cold CEO, but right now, he looked like a man who was simply happy to be with her. "You're not fair," she muttered, hiding her face behind her glass. "What's not fair?" he teased. "That you're supposed to be cold and scary. But instead, you're making me blush like a teenager." He leaned in with a satisfied grin. "Good. Now you know how I feel every time you smile at someone else." Her eyes softened, and despite trying to tease, she couldn't stop her own smile. The ride back was quiet. The city lights blurred past as Nia stole quick glances at Minjun, still flustered from his teasing. He, on the other hand, wore a smug little smile, clearly enjoying her reactions. When the car finally stopped, she looked out the window, surprised. "Wait, this is your place?" "Yes," he replied, smoothly stepping out. "Don't worry. I don't bite unless you tease me again." Her jaw dropped. "Yeah, this CEO is becoming dangerous," she said, swatting his arm as they walked inside. Nia stretched her arms wide as she sat on Minjun's plain gray sofa, her eyes scanning every corner of his spotless apartment. Egu! She sighed dramatically, flopping back like a queen onto her throne. Mr. Boss, this house looks like a robot lives here. No plants, no colors, not even a picture frame. If I stay here overnight, my spirit might suffocate. Minjun raised an eyebrow, loosening his tie as he chuckled. So you plan to stay overnight already? He teased, walking toward the kitchen. Should I prepare a guest contract for you to sign? Nia gasped, tossing a pillow at him. Yeah. Don't act like you're not secretly happy I'm here. If not for me, you'd still be eating instant noodles and staring at these sad walls. Minjun caught the pillow easily, smirking. If not for you, I wouldn't be losing arguments every single day either. She sat up, her face softening. Admit it, your life would be so boring without me. Tell me, what would you do if I had never become your translator? He leaned against the wall, folding his arms and pretending to think. Maybe I'd hire someone quiet, someone who never talks back, someone who doesn't throw pillows at me. Nia narrowed her eyes, marching up to him. Yeah, you'd die of loneliness in 1 week, admit it. Their eyes locked, and for a moment the room fell quiet. Minjun's teasing smile faded, replaced by something softer. He stepped closer, close enough that Nia could feel his warmth. You're right, he said quietly. Without you, my life would be empty. Her heart skipped, and before she could think of a comeback, he tilted his head and kissed her. It was gentle at first, almost unsure, but when Nia gasped softly, he deepened it. Her hand slid up to his shoulders as she melted into him, and for the first time, silence felt perfect. When they pulled away, Nia touched her lips, blushing hard. So, this is what happens when translators stay too long at work. Huh, she joked, trying to hide her flustered face. Minjun chuckled, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. Consider it a bonus payment. They laughed, and the moment lightened again. Soon, Minjun insisted on cooking for her, rolling up his sleeves like a pro. You? Cook! Nia burst out laughing. I can already smell the disaster. Should I call the fire department now or later? Just watch, he said confidently, chopping vegetables with precision. But when he cracked an egg, half the shell fell straight into the pan. Nia howled with laughter, nearly falling off her chair. Dayback, my boss, the great CEO, defeated by an egg. He glared playfully. Yeah, stop laughing and help me. Nope. She leaned back, crossing her arms with a mischievous grin. This is the best free entertainment I've had all year. Despite the chaos, the food turned out surprisingly edible. They sat at the table, laughing between bites, Nia teasing him endlessly about his egg war. The night stretched on with stories, laughter, and soft touches, and as she leaned her head on his shoulder, she whispered, See, boss? Told you. I brought life into your house. He smiled, kissing her forehead gently. And into my life, too. The next morning, the office buzzed with its usual seriousness. Papers shuffled, keyboards clicked, and employees whispered as the CEO walked in. But this time, Minjun didn't look like the cold, untouchable boss they were used to. He looked different, relaxed, almost glowing. Trailing just a few steps behind was Nia, her hair tied neatly in her signature puff. But her smile was brighter than ever. She tried to walk normally, but the little smirk on her lips gave everything away. The gossip started instantly. Look at them, they look like they came from the same place, one whispered. His tie is crooked, Nia must have fixed it, another giggled. Minjun pretended not to notice, but when they stepped into the boardroom for the morning meeting, Nia leaned close and whispered with a mischievous grin, You look suspicious, boss. Are you sure you didn't forget to hide the evidence? He froze, nearly choking on his own breath. Evidence, he whispered back, his ears turning red. Nia teased, pretending to jot down notes. Like how someone cooked burnt eggs last night and begged me not to laugh. His jaw dropped. He shot her a cold CO glare, But it didn't help because she chuckled out loud, and the board members glanced up in confusion. One of the executives whispered, "Is the CEO blushing?" Minjun quickly cleared his throat and adjusted his tie. "Back to business," he said firmly, but when he risked a side glance, Nia winked at him. He nearly lost his composure all over again. By the time the meeting ended, his employees were whispering among themselves. "The CEO has changed. He actually smiled today. Is it love?" And as they walked out of the room, Nia leaned close again, whispering, "Relax, boss. I promised no one can steal me from you." Minjun smirked, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You're the only one who steals my sanity." She burst out laughing, nearly stumbling, while he caught her by the wrist to steady her, only making the office gossip explode even louder. After a long day at the office, Minjun surprised Nia by telling her they weren't heading straight home. Instead, he drove her through the bright streets of Seoul until they stopped in front of a lively street market. "Wait, you, the almighty CEO, brought me here," Nia teased, raising a brow as the neon lights reflected in her eyes. Minjun smirked. "Don't underestimate me. I'm more fun than you think." She laughed, clutching her stomach. "Fun? You? The same man who almost fainted when I teased him about his boring apartment." He shook his head but couldn't stop smiling. For the first time, he didn't feel like a CEO, he felt like a man enjoying the company of someone who made life lighter. They walked through the market, tasting spicy tteokbokki and crispy hariok. Nia boldly fed him a bite of fish cake, but when a little sauce stained his lips, she wiped it off with her thumb. He froze. She laughed. "Relax, Mr. CEO. You'll survive." But the warmth in his chest told him he might not survive this woman. She was stealing his heart faster than he expected. Later, they sat by the Han River, street food bags beside them. Nia leaned back, looking at the city lights. "You know, I am happy my boring boss is begging to get interesting." Minjun chuckled, his voice softer than usual. "Maybe. Or maybe fate knew I needed someone to ruin my perfect, boring life." Nia pretended to be shocked. "Ruin? Excuse you, I'm improving it." They both laughed, their voices mixing with the night air. It was light, it was funny, but beneath it all, their bond was quietly deepening. Snowflakes drifted lazily outside the tall glass windows of the office, frosting the night sky with soft white. Inside, the company's year-end Christmas party was in full swing. The usually serious office had transformed into a wonderland of twinkling fairy lights, red ribbons, and the towering Christmas tree glowing proudly in the middle of the room. Employees laughed over steaming cups of cocoa, exchanging small gifts, and teasing each other with wishes for the coming year. Nia was in her element. She loved holidays. Nia stood near the glowing Christmas tree, her eyes sparkling at the festive mood. She loved this. Back home in North America, Christmas was always warm and loud, but here in Korea it felt magical and new. Minjun, on the other hand, was not a fan of such gatherings. Normally, he would have slipped away early, escaping to the silence of his apartment. But tonight he stayed. He wasn't watching the tree, the lights, or the snow. He was watching her. When the office manager announced it was time for everyone to share their Christmas wishes, the employees cheered and clapped. One by one, people made funny or heartfelt wishes, promotions, vacations, love, even fewer Monday meetings. Finally, it was Nia's turn. She clasped her hands together like a child making a wish at a birthday cake. "My wish," she began, her eyes glowing with warmth, "is for happiness, and that everyone here finds someone who makes them laugh every single day, because life is too short not to laugh." The room melted into applause. "That's so you, Nia," someone called. Everyone clapped and teased her, saying her laughter was already contagious. She turned to Minjun, curious. "What about you, Mr. CEO? What's your wish?" Minjun was leaning against a table, his suit crisp, his expression unreadable. The office expected him to brush it off with some business-related answer, like wishing for higher profits or new partnerships. But instead, he straightened and looked directly at Nia. His gaze was steady, piercing, yet filled with something softer than anyone had ever seen in him before. "My wish," he said, his voice low but carrying clearly across the room, "is to marry the woman who has been driving me crazy since the day she walked into my office as my translator." The room exploded. Gasps, laughter, shrieks of surprise filled the air. Someone nearly dropped their cocoa. What? Did he just? The CEO confessed. Oh my God, it's like a drama. Nia froze, blinking rapidly. Wait, what? Are you seriously saying that here? In front of everyone? A smirk tugged at Minjun's lips, but his eyes didn't waver. You asked for my wish. That's my answer. Her cheeks burned, her heart racing so fast she thought everyone could hear it. You can't just say things like that so casually. I can, he interrupted smoothly, because I mean it. The office went wild again, people clapping and chanting. Wedding bells! Wedding bells! Nia, say yes already. She tried to hide her blush behind her cocoa cup, glaring at him playfully. You're unbelievable, you know that? And yet, he whispered just for her, leaning slightly closer, you still haven't run away. Her heart flipped. The teasing smirk on his lips told her this wasn't just a Christmas wish. It was a promise. The Christmas party ended with more chaos than Minjun had expected. After his bold confession, the office didn't calm down for the rest of the night. Even as they exchanged gifts, laughter filled the air. Half of it about Christmas, the other half about their CEO and his translator. By the next morning, gossip had spread through the entire company like wildfire. The moment Nia stepped into the building, she could feel dozens of eyes on her. People were whispering in the hallways, nudging each other and smiling knowingly as she walked past. Did you hear? The CEO confessed at the party. They're perfect together. Can you imagine their wedding? Nia walked faster, clutching her files to her chest, trying not to let her burning cheeks show. Why did he have to do that in public? She thought, now I'm the headline of office gossip. When she entered Minjun's office, she found him already at his desk, sipping his coffee calmly as if nothing had happened. Good morning, he said smoothly, not even glancing up from his papers. Her jaw dropped. Good morning? That's all you have to say. Finally, he looked up, his lips curling into a smirk. What else? Should I repeat my confession, this time with more details? Her eyes widened. Are you crazy? Do you know how many people are talking about us right now? He leaned back in his chair, unbothered. Let them talk. I'm the CEO. If I don't care, why should you? She groaned, covering her face with her hands. You're unbelievable. Before she could argue further, Mr. Han, the assistant manager, knocked and stepped in, pretending to check some documents but clearly unable to hide his grin. Good morning, lovebirds. Nia almost choked. Mr. Han. He grinned wider. Oh, don't mind me. Just wondering if I should prepare wedding invitations, or at least practice my speech for the ceremony. Get out, Minjun said coldly, but the faint blush on his ears betrayed him. As the day went on, the teasing only got worse. In the break room, colleagues nudged Nia, asking if she liked older men since the CEO was a few years her senior. In the hallway, someone shouted, Nia, when's the engagement party? By lunchtime, she was ready to scream. When she returned to the office, she glared at Minjun. This is all your fault. You just had to make that wish out loud. Minjun, of course, was unfazed. He pushed his chair back, stood and walked over to her. Leaning down slightly, he whispered, And you still haven't answered me. Are you going to keep me waiting forever? Her breath caught. The teasing, the gossip, the chaos, it all disappeared in that moment. His eyes were serious now, no smirk, no game. Just him. Nia's lips parted, her heart pounding. She wanted to answer, But before she could, the intercom buzzed with an urgent call for Minjun to attend a board meeting. "Later," he said softly, brushing past her. She stood frozen, her heart racing faster than ever. After the day closed, the warmth of Minjun's apartment wrapped around them the moment they stepped in, shutting out the winter chill. Nia looked around with her usual playful judgment and shook her head. "Still boring," she teased, setting her scarf on the couch. Minjun smirked, slipping off his coat. "Maybe I was waiting for someone to bring life into it." His eyes lingered on her, and Nia froze for a moment, suddenly feeling the weight of his words. She quickly waved him off, pretending not to notice. "Aha, you're lucky I'm generous. I'll redecorate. Plants, bright pillows, maybe a pink rug." Pink rug. He feigned horror. "Do you want to kill me?" That made her burst into laughter, and for a moment the air between them lightened again. At one point, Nia leaned back, still smiling, and asked softly, "What would your life even be if I hadn't become your translator?" Minjun didn't hesitate. He set his chopsticks down, looking straight at her. "Empty. Cold. Boring like this house." Then with a smirk, "But thanks to you, I finally have color." The words silenced her. Nia tried to laugh it off, but her heart was racing. She reached for her drink to hide her fluster, but Minjun caught her hand gently. "You think I was joking about my Christmas wish," he said, his voice lower now. "Nia, I mean it. My wish is to marry you." For a second, all she could hear was her heartbeat. Her usual witty comeback didn't come this time. Instead, she looked away, smiling shyly, her silence speaking louder than words. And when Minjun leaned closer, their lips finally met in a kiss, soft, warm, and filled with everything they hadn't yet said aloud. The kiss lingered, soft and trembling, until Nia finally pulled back, her breath uneven. Her eyes darted everywhere, but his face, her usual sass, temporarily disarmed. "Why, yeah," she muttered, fanning her burning cheeks with her hand. "Do you just go around kissing your translator whenever you feel like it?" Minjun smirked, leaning closer. "Only one translator. Only you." Her lips curved despite herself, and she quickly stuffed a spoonful of fried rice into her mouth to avoid replying. Minjun watched, his eyes warm, patient, waiting. Finally, she set the plate down, turning toward him. "You really don't give up, do you? Even at Christmas, in your boring house, you're out here asking me to marry you." He nodded, serious now. "Because it's not a joke. I don't care what people say, Nia. I want you with me. Forever." Nia blinked, her heart doing flips. For a moment, the room was silent, only the faint hum of the heater filling the space. Then, she chuckled softly, shaking her head. "You know what, Minjun," she said, meeting his gaze at last. "You're ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous." But she reached out, poking his chest with her finger, her smile widening. "You're my ridiculous man. So yes, I'll marry you." Minjun froze for a second, as if his brain couldn't process her words. "Wait, did you just—" "Yes," she cut him off, laughing nervously. "I said yes, you big baby, before you faint on me." That was all he needed. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she squealed. "Yeah, I can't breathe," she protested, laughing. But when she looked up at him, his eyes were shining, not with CEO authority, not with pride, but with raw, unguarded joy. He kissed her forehead, then her lips again, whispering, "Thank you, Nia. You just made my life complete." Nia, still blushing, rolled her eyes playfully. "Ego, and here I thought I was just signing up for a translation job. Now I'm stuck with a husband." They both burst into laughter, their voices filling the once empty apartment. For the first time, the house wasn't boring anymore. It was alive with love, teasing, and a promise that would last. The black car rolled smoothly into the Lee family's estate, its grand gates opening as though welcoming something more than just a guest. Nia sat beside Minjun, her hands neatly folded on her lap, but her eyes kept darting toward him. He looked different, softer, happier, almost boyish. When they stepped inside, Chairman Lee was already waiting in the living room. His sharp eyes, once critical of his son's every move, now softened as he watched Minjun pull a chair for Nia before sitting himself. It was a small gesture, but one his father had never seen him do for anyone. "You," the old man said with a chuckle, pointing at his son. "You look like a fool who just won the lottery. Don't tell me this young lady bewitched you." Nia's eyes widened, and she almost choked on her tea. Minjun glared. "Father!" "What?" Chairman Lee leaned back, smirking. "For years you've walked into this house with a face darker than winter. And now, one smile from her, and you're shining like a spring day." "Ha!" Nia laughed awkwardly, trying to hide her blush. "Sir, he's still strict, trust me." "Strict?" the father teased, raising an eyebrow. "My son looks more like a puppy now. Are you feeding him love instead of food?" Minjun groaned, rubbing his forehead, but Nia burst into laughter, unable to hold it back. The sound filled the room, and Chairman Lee's grin grew wider. For the first time, he wasn't just teasing, he was relieved. His son, once a cold CEO, finally looked alive, and as Minjun stole a quick glance at Nia, the father caught it, shaking his head knowingly. "Careful, son. If you keep looking at her like that, I might just adopt her before you do." The room erupted in laughter, but Minjun's tightened grip on Nia's hand under the table said only one thing. She was already his. The laughter in the room finally settled, though Minjun was still rubbing his temple like a man under siege. His father, however, was just warming up. He leaned forward, resting his elbow on the armrest, eyes sparkling with mischief. "So," Chairman Lee began, slowly looking straight at Nia, "when is the wedding?" Nia froze, her teacup halfway to her lips. "Wedding," she stammered, nearly spilling the tea. Minjun's head snapped up, his eyes wide. "Father!" "What?" Chairman Lee shrugged, pretending to be innocent. "Don't act like I don't see it. The way you glare at any man who so much as breathes near her, I thought the two of you had already sent out invitations." Nia bit her lip, trying hard not to laugh at Minjun's horrified expression. "Sir, it's not like that," she said softly, though her cheeks betrayed her with a bright blush. "Oh." The father tilted his head, feigning surprise. "Then tell me, why does my son look like a high school boy in love whenever you enter the room? Explain that." Nia chuckled nervously, glancing at Minjun, who looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. He muttered under his breath, "Father, stop this nonsense." But Chairman Lee was relentless. "Nonsense? My boy, if you don't marry her soon, someone else will. And judging from her smile, you'll regret it." He winked at Nia, who couldn't hold her laughter anymore. The sound filled the house like music, and Minjun's face softened despite his embarrassment. Finally, the father leaned back with a satisfied sigh. "Good. At least now I can rest easy. My son has finally found someone to melt his frozen heart." The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was warm. But Minjun's hand found Nia's under the table again, gripping tighter than before, as if silently declaring she was already his. The car hummed softly as it glided through Seoul's night streets. Nia sat quietly, still smiling to herself about Chairman Lee's teasing. Every time she replayed Minjun's expression in her head, she nearly burst into laughter again. But then, Minjun spoke, his tone calm yet firm. "My father is right." Her smile faded. Right about what?" He turned his head, eyes locking on her with that CEO intensity that always made her heart race. "About us. About marriage." Nia blinked, her mouth falling open. "Wedding? Are you serious?" "Why not?" Minjun said, smoothly, as though discussing a business deal. We're already together more than anyone else. You make me laugh. You make me jealous. You even make my father proud. What's left to wait for? Nia shook her head in disbelief, her cheeks heating. You can't just say things like that so casually. Marriage is not a joke, Minjun. He leaned a little closer, the corner of his lips curving into a teasing smile. Do I look like I'm joking? If I wanted to joke, I'd say my house is boring again. Her jaw dropped. You! She smacked his arm, but her blush betrayed her. Still, Minjun didn't flinch. He kept his eyes on her, his voice lowering. Think about it, Nia. Maybe it's time we actually start preparing for a wedding. The car fell into silence. Nia's heart was racing too fast to speak, her mind spinning. She tried to laugh it off, but one glance at him told her he wasn't playing. For the first time, Minjun wasn't just confessing. He was declaring. And Nia had no idea how to respond. Nia closed the door of her apartment behind her, leaning against it for a long moment. The silence wrapped around her like a blanket, but tonight it felt different, softer, warmer, almost alive. She pressed her palm against her chest, her heartbeat still racing from the words Minjun had spoken earlier. Marriage. The word echoed in her mind like a song she couldn't stop humming. She drifted toward the window and pushed the curtain aside, gazing at the glowing Seoul skyline. How did I get here? She whispered to herself, her reflection looking back with a smile she didn't even notice forming. Just a year ago, she was the new foreigner at work, barely holding on to confidence, translating documents and wondering if anyone really saw her. And now, she was in love with her boss, the very man who had turned her quiet days into something extraordinary. Nia walked to her couch and dropped onto it, hugging a cushion close to her chest. Her eyes fell on a wedding magazine lying carelessly on the table, one she had bought weeks ago for fun when her friend teased her about dreaming big. Slowly, she picked it up, running her fingers across the glossy cover. The thought made her laugh softly. Nia, are you really thinking about this now? She teased herself, but her laughter melted into a blush. She reached for her phone, scrolling to the picture they had taken together at the office party, the one where he had leaned in close, smiling more freely than she had ever seen him. Her thumb traced over his face, and for the first time, the idea of being his forever didn't feel impossible. It felt real. It felt right. Lying back, she stared at the ceiling, a smile tugging at her lips. I didn't just find a boss, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. I found love, and maybe my future. As she closed her eyes, peace washed over her. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of what tomorrow would bring, because tomorrow she knew he would be there. 1 month later, the wedding day arrived, and it was everything anyone could have imagined. Flowers everywhere, laughter echoing through the hall, and Minjun looking slightly nervous but impossibly handsome. Nia. She glowed like sunlight breaking through the clouds. As guests arrived, they were greeted with a surprise gift at their seats. Tiny boxes wrapped in gold and pink ribbons. Inside, sweet treats, funny minifigurines, and a note that read, Thank you for being part of our story. And yes, my dear subscribers, this one's for you too. You watched, laughed, commented, and teased us through every scene. So here's a little something to say. You're officially part of the family. Laughter and cheers erupted as people unwrapped their gifts. Minjun whispered to Nia, See, even our guests are now fans of our comedy and our love story. Nia giggled, nudging him. I bet some of them subscribed just for the gifts. Minjun smirked. Let them. But don't forget, they got this because they followed us from the very beginning. Subscribers really do get the VIP treatment. And as they shared a sweet, teasing glance, Nia whispered, Who knew falling in love with your boss would end with laughter, gifts, and subscribers? The crowd cheered again, confetti flying in the air, and for the first time, Minjun and Nia didn't just feel love. They felt like the happiest couple in the world, surrounded by family, friends, and loyal subscribers who had been part of their journey from day one. And somewhere in the back, Nia whispered cheekily to the camera, "Don't just watch, subscribe, or you'll miss the next chapter. And maybe your iPhone 17 gift." The wedding was over, but the love story was just beginning. Back at the office, everything felt different. Minjun no longer hid his feelings. Whenever they walked into a meeting together, he proudly introduced Nia as my wife and business partner. His voice carried pride, and his eyes shone with love. The jealous whispers that once followed them were gone. Now people admire them. Some even envied the way he looked at her, as if she was the only woman in the world. And Nia, always playful, would tease him with a smile. But now she also carried herself with the grace of someone deeply loved. Together, they were unstoppable. Deals became easier, meetings flowed smoother, and clients loved seeing their teamwork. They were no longer just CEO and translator. They were partners in life and partners in success. Years passed, and their bond only grew stronger. One morning, in their warm home filled with laughter, the sound of a baby's giggle echoed through the rooms. Their beautiful daughter had inherited her mother's bright eyes and her father's charming smile. She became the living proof of their love. At company events, people would whisper, "That's the couple everyone dreams to be like, strong, funny, and forever in love." Nia looked at Minjun one evening and whispered, "Remember when you used to get jealous of every man around me?" He chuckled, pulling her close. "Now the whole world knows you're mine, and I'm yours forever." Their story, once filled with misunderstandings and jealousy, had blossomed into a love that made others believe in happy endings again. And so, they lived, not just as husband and wife, but as soulmates whose laughter, passion, and devotion would never fade. Thank you for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you are new here, please tell us where you are watching from. We would love to know you. And to our amazing subscribers, thank you for your support. Always besties. If you love this story, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your kindness keeps us going. This is Afro Love Diaries, where every heartbeat tells a story.